All right, so I don't really know much about Fresh and Fit, just that they're apparently douchebags. Yeah, I think that's probably the most accurate way to put that. But whatever. What I find interesting and the reason why I want to watch this video, it's Fresh and Fit discuss Pearl Davis and her call to stop women from voting. I haven't made a video on Pearl Davis, but she is very dumb. She's very, very dumb. And she's not even good at what she does, but for some reason has gotten lots and lots of attention. But I do want to hear how these dudes, these dude bros, and Tim Pool discuss the topic of women's right to vote. So here we go.
Let's shift a little bit into the more political space, because you mentioned feminism.
Yeah.
So I definitely want to talk about that in the bigger picture, where we're at with that. But I want to start with this tweet from Pearl Davis.
Okay.
It's got 12.1 million views, 1,734 reposts, 34,000 likes, has been quoted 3,638 times, and it is a picture of her wearing a shirt saying women shouldn't vote.
Yeah, I mean, like, Pearl Davis is 99% trolling to try and maximize her social media profile as much as possible. I don't think there's a sincere bone in her body. I really don't. So yeah, I don't know. It's just, the thing is, if somebody's gonna grift and they're good at it, I mean, I don't like it, because I would rather people be, honest about things and their convictions. But you have to have some respect for the game. You just have to. You have to have some respect for the game. That's just how these things work. But it's more stunning to me how she's not even that good at it, yet somehow manages to stumble her way into being successful. Isn't that weird? It's so weird.
Women vote?
I think their vote should carry half as much weight as men's.
So you're in the middle. I'm
in the middle. I think women should have the ability to.
Unironically, Tim just made a hilarious joke, because like that is the joke about centrists. The image of we want to kill these people, and these other people are like, don't kill us, and then the centrist is like, can't we meet in the middle here? like what? You had to kill some people, but not kill others. Abortions for some, boo! Small American flags for others, yay! Yeah.
To vote, and it depending on what position they hold, if they're in the military and they're some type of government service, then I think absolutely their vote should count all the way. But if it's just a female and she doesn't have any type of civil service or anything else like that, then I think it should be. And this goes for the men too,
right?
Certain guys shouldn't vote either. If you're working at McDonald's, etc., should your vote count all the way?
Well,
no.
So then,
wow, just straight up classism. Second-rate citizens, that sort of thing. Genius, absolute genius. I mean, look, and one has to okay. Obviously, these guys are rich because they got rich doing this this misogynistic podcast and whatever. And again, if the grift works and you're good at it, you got to have some respect for the game and shit. But what societal value do you really contribute? At least a McDonald's worker feeds people, right? You just sit around on your dumb ass and talking to a microphone. Like, why should your vote count more? Or is it just because you have money? In which case, big yikes there, dog. Straight up authoritarian kind of shit, my guy.
And it's not a question of, in your mind, women. It's a question of, should people not engaged in civic duty vote?
Yes, but to be honest with it, let's keep it 1,000. That's going to immediately put a majority of women as only half voters.
Right.
And a majority of men, too. What? What are you even talking about?
Because that's the career fields that's the career fields and life decisions that women make in general.
Well, so yeah, do you want to respond to this?
I feel like I'm taking crazy pills here, but I think part of the problem is that the view, I guess our views of women are so much different, because when I think of a woman, I think of a woman who runs a household and raises children and does the most beautiful thing that you can possibly do. So I see so much inherent value in, I think,
which we agree is important.
So, I obviously this guy has a very traditional attitude and whatnot, but I will at least respect that he is offering value to the notion of, people dedicating themselves to raising children. Because, I mean, it is. honestly, if you're a homemaker, I think you should be paid for that. I do. I legitimately do. I'm a homemaker. I should be paid for that. Fuck yeah, I should. God damn.
Important. Okay, but I kind of feel like what we're doing here is we've trained as men, women, we've incentivized certain behavior, and now we want to discount them because they're giving the men what they're asking for, which is OnlyFans, Instagram, ass shots. And then we're saying now suddenly that they're somehow less valuable.
Takes two to tango.
Well,
right. A lot of the stuff that we're seeing women do, it's like men
They're filling demand is all they're doing.
Yeah, that's capitalism, Tim. Do you have a problem with capitalism? Based communist Tim Pool? No, I don't think so.
Well, we allowed them to do this, so you are correct in that sense, because as men, we're leaders. But I will say this.
We allowed them to do it. Okay. All right. Yeah.
If we're talking about votes here, women are more easily swayed to one direction or another because, once again, they follow leadership to depending on who they see as important. So ultimately speaking, if I'm going to go for votes, I sway the women, I'm going to...
What is this bullfrog-looking motherfucker even talking about? What? What? You ain't leading shit, man. What are you talking about? And why are you wearing 2 watches? Where you gotta be?
win.
So you're saying, but what you're saying is that we as men are ineffective leaders, and therefore, because we cannot lead properly, that now the women should have a half a vote or no vote or what? Like to me, I'm always like looking first internally. What did I do? How did I fail here? Or what was the point of failure that happened here?
See, you know what? That's where you made a mistake. You're talking to a bunch of alpha chads. You know what you're doing right now?
Beta
male. Oh my God. Oh, yeah. Man, that's a big
whoopsie.
Damn, man. Damn. No, but I mean, like, I agree with this guy more than I agree with anybody else. It's funny that he's sitting in Ian's chair, because Ian's usually the only one that makes any kind of coherent points also. So maybe that's the blessed chair of +1 intelligence. So at least there's at least one that can crack a lukewarm temperature IQ.
Leadership, and everything I'm hearing is like men have failed in many.
Well, yeah, by letting women vote. So that's how they fail. I mean, let's keep it 1,000.
So first, I'll address what you said. I believe the science is clear that women are more agreeable, men are more disagreeable.
Correct.
Yeah.
So it's harder to convince a guy. He'll challenge.
But women are more agreeable. Have you ever dated a woman, Tim? Like, ever? Like, come on.
He'll headbutt you. A woman is going to try and make things smooth over. Yeah. There's a lot of positives to being agreeable and a lot of negatives to being disagreeable, and vice versa. It's pros and cons.
He has never spoken to a real woman. Never. He has never spoken to a real woman. A man's more likely to headbutt you, where a woman's just going to try and smooth things over. Oh my God, buddy. No. You have never met an actual woman. I'm sorry.
Yes. Women are different and complementary.
Yes. Now, there's an agenda, though. Of course, we can go deeper here, get more serious. But to be real here, men were at the helm of this because, once again, we put certain policies in place. We allow things to happen. And as a result, the family's destroyed. Now, when it comes to women, obviously, they're human beings as well. Equally, we're all human beings. But to be fair, when it comes to voting and political views, they can be swayed in any direction, which means, by default, they should vote.
But so
look, man, let's keep it a million. Women are communitarian in general. They tend to vote Democrat. They tend to vote for, hey, let's give everybody $1 versus giving the best person $1. They don't base...
Okay, so wait. So they vote for a party that tries to take their rights away less, and they're more down for, like, trying to spread out, an equality rather than, like, award special behavior or some shit. Okay, all right, fuck, whatever.
Their values a lot of times are not aligned with meritocracy. They want everyone to benefit, which is cool, I guess, if you like communism. But if you're a capitalistic guy, you want the best to succeed. And unfortunately, a lot of the times, women don't believe in meritocracy. They believe in communitarianism.
Okay, you cannot be trying to spout off like a hardcore capitalist when you're pushing overt authoritarianism, all right? Like, the notion of capitalism at its source is supposed to be the free market. There's a word in there, it's called free. It's supposed to be able to respond to the larger, broader whims of the consumer base. If you're disenfranchising people and creating second-class citizens like that. Nothing about that is a free market. That's an authoritarian market. Like, it's so weird. Like, these dudes have no concept of what they're even philosophically speaking right now. It's bananas.
General, not all, but most.
We'll go back to some of the common points brought
Sure.
up from Suffrage.
Yeah.
So this is
Ian did say Kanye was a Jewish messiah. I'm not kidding. He's crazy on a whole different level. Oh, I know. Ian Crossland is a lunatic, an absolute lunatic. But he's at least, I think he's a genuine lunatic, right? I don't think he's like a malicious, nasty lunatic. I think he's just dumb and crazy, but he's honest about it. You know, he just also doesn't have a spine, so he has to, agree with Tim ultimately.
this is typically, I feel like it's typically not talked about that there were a lot of women who opposed women's suffrage because initially it was tied to civic duty.
Yes.
Men who were voting had to be on the fire brigade. You had to, you could be drafted. You could go and die. And so with that, the idea is like, if we can force you to go fight and die, you get a say in a vote as to who decides.
Absolutely.
Women can't be forced to go off and fight and die. So they should not have a say in
So abolish the draft. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I'm cool with that too. Yeah. That's fair to me.
these matters.
That's a big part of the reason why I say they should get 50% is because women don't have to join the selective service. I can't tell you how many times we've done the podcast.
So just abolish selective service. Just do that. Just do that. Like, just do that.
That's an argument for not voting at all.
Yeah. Do you even know? That's what I'm saying. That's why a lot of them should be limited. I ask women all the time, do you even know what the selective service is? Most of them don't even know it.
So what ends up happening is
Most people don't know it until they're 18 and they're forced to sign up for it. Like, it's not really a thing that anybody's talking about. And also, we haven't had a draft in 50 years? Yeah, 50 years. Like, it's kind of like a non-issue, you know? I think we should just abolish it. But these guys are going to say that we should abolish it. At least, if they do, I'll be very surprised.
and I have only a cursory knowledge of this. Correct me if I'm wrong. For those that are listening, feel free. I don't think I'm completely right on this. What I read was that a compromise was made. Women were not going to get suffrage because they were like, we don't want to go to war and we don't want a fire brigade. We want the men to do those things. Please leave us alone.
Yep.
And so that caused a point of contention where it wasn't going to move forward until finally the men who were running the show in Congress and stuff and relented and said, okay, women can vote and no civic duty. And everyone said, okay, we agree to that.
Yeah.
That doesn't make any sense to me. So where we're at now is we're in a completely different world. I do think women should be allowed to vote. However, I don't think anyone should be allowed to vote without civic duty. It makes no sense to me that someone can move into New York City without having any ties to the community, vote to destroy the place, and then leave. That's a problem. People
You can't. You have to be an actual, resident. You have to be a resident in order to vote in the state that you're in. There has to be a connection. You have to be able to get mail there. You have to have some ties there. Now, sure, if you believe in some grand like conspiracy that there's a bunch of people who are like flooding over, signing up for like, I don't know, electrical service at a rental place for 1 month just so they can vote in one election and then move back, wasting all that money to do it. If you think that that's a possibility, okay, sure, fine. Okay, sure. But that is bananas. That's bananas. That is a lot of money, especially when you're talking about New York City, how expensive it is there. It's crazy.
People, typically Democrats, talk about how evil it was that only landowners were allowed to vote back then.
True,
But
that
they're
was
ignoring
bad.
the context of history in that there were no ID cards. Voting was, do you live here or no? You don't live here? Okay, well, dude, you're not voting on how we're going to defend, facilitate, expand. That actually makes a ton of sense.
It does.
If you don't,
No, because this isn't the 1800s, Tim. This isn't the 1800s. And also, if you are there and you're paying taxes into a community, yeah, you should have a say. That's why. That's what it's about. You should, if you have to pay to contribute into society, you should have a say in the voting. It's not really any more complicated than that. You know, like, sorry, that it just is what it is. And everybody has to pay taxes in one form or another, even by just simply existing there. You know, buying groceries, paying rent, like any number of different things. You're taxed. Like, it's all over the place.
you don't live in my house, you can't vote on whether or not we're going to install a hot tub or, you know, a cold plunge. If we're roommates, we get to vote on what's for dinner. If you're my neighbor, why are you voting? Like, why did you invite your friend over to vote on what I get to have for dinner? And now
Weird. So houses are different than communities. I didn't know that, Tim. Thank you so much for clearing that up, that they're exactly the same.
he's leaving tomorrow and you're making me eat garbage food.
Well, this is why it's so important to have authority tied with responsibility. The problem is that we're giving people authority with zero responsibility, which goes back to the female voting situation, right? A lot of these women that vote, a lot of times, they don't necessarily know how the government works, how the economy works, etc. And they're
Do you?
over here making very serious decisions and putting people like Sleepy Joe in office who don't necessarily deserve to be there.
And when you look at the maps, the voting maps, it's a fact. Women, if they do the map, if only women voted, whole country except for like one state is blue. If only men voted, whole country is red except for like one state. I am not
That's not true at all. That is not even remotely true.
saying that means women should not have their vote. I'm saying nobody should just be granted the right to vote in any capacity without some responsibility tied
There's
to
got to be
it.
checks and balances.
Taxes.
I
That's
agree.
brilliant.
So you got to have some
So get an
responsibility.
IQ test. You
Nah,
pass it, you can vote.
No, well, because
I don't think that would work out well for you, buddy. I don't think that would work out for pretty much anybody in that studio right now. Nah, sorry. Maybe the guy in Ian's chair. He might have some. Maybe he's like a kind of a musical savant or something like that. Some kind of thing that like enriches his soul, so he's not as much of a hateful douche as the rest of these guys. I don't know.
because that's subjective. You're asking someone else. Like the problem, but people have talked about things like this, test of merit. Vivek Ramaswamy has said a constitution or civics test. If you're under the age of 25 and you want to vote, you got to pass a test. I'm like, that's nonsense because there's 26-year-olds who are dumb as a box of rocks.
Yeah.
There's 50-year-olds. There's men who are voting. Look, there are a large portion of conservative Republican-leaning women removing their vote. Why? They're 50-50 men. Men are voting Democrat too. I don't see a political argument for or against voting. I see a civic argument, genderless, right? I talked to Vivek Ramaswamy about this, and I thought one of a really good, simple idea that we brushed upon was the moment you sign up for the selective service, you're also granted a voter registration ID card. Registering to vote is a selective service. Here's what happens. This solves the problem for everybody. You don't have to go to war. You're not being drafted. The likelihood of that is extremely low. You're simply saying, I am willing to be in the event anything does happen. I know there are problems with that because I think the draft is really, really bad because you look at how the United States government has changed. It's one thing to say, hey, we're being invaded to arms men. It's another thing to be like, we're sending you to Vietnam, in the Gulf of Tonkin incident.
So you just trust that the government would have like altruistic reasons to send you to war. Like it's got to be this. Look, this guy. Listen, this time, guys, it's for a good reason. We swear. Come on, man.
And all that I'll avoid. But, nonsense, false flags, fake reasons for getting into war. But think about what happens. If you say, everyone's allowed to vote, but you got to sign up for selective service, men and women both. You are going to have 95% of low-value individuals, men and women, being like, nah, I'm cool. I don't want to be involved in that at all.
That's a good way to go about it.
I like low value people. Look, okay. I can't handle Tim's voice anymore I know I'm going to have to watch another video here in a minute, make another video for this channel and everything. But I think I'm done with this video. But I will say, look, there is an argument to be made where you could, when you turn 18, have some form of civic responsibility. And I don't necessarily think that it's a bad idea so long as there is avenues to go. Like you could do an apprenticeship for the next 2 years. And so you're out of high school and you're working in your community and you're helping with cleaning stuff up or learning how to build something or learning how to help people with healthcare. You could learn all sorts of different stuff. Like a civic is something that benefits society. It's a prep training and service that leads you towards further college if that's a career that you want to go for. And you get paid for it. And you learn a trade and you learn a skill and society benefits. It could be construction, fixing our crumbling infrastructure. It could be telecommunications, maintaining the different grids that we have going on. It could be any number of different things. And I think that would be pretty cool. I think that's a really cool idea that gives open avenues of advancement for young people, for people who are now just becoming adults. Do I think that should be tied into voting? No. No. If you pay taxes, you can vote. That's it. If you're going to be if you are going to be pushed to have to pay money into the system, and it's a requirement of being in that society, that means you get a say. Simple as that. Simple as that. It does not have to be any more complex. The fact that none of these libertarian dudes didn't bring up taxes once is even more evidence on exactly how much grift. Either they're stupid or intentionally misleading people with propaganda so they can push this stupid narrative. Like, it's so obvious. It's insane. So, yeah, I don't know. These guys suck.